Is that otherwise?
It's not like one of the majors like you or something, but it's really probably one of the biggest, other than one of the Grand Slam events. Most popular of the big
Good evening, this is the Town of Boston Planning Board for March 20th, 2019.
60.
Let's go around the table and introduce others.
Carolyn Stevens, board member.
Ching Washington, Chair.
Garrett Puffin, board member.
Jim Bassina, board member.
Dan Ciarcia, consulting engineer of the planning board.
Sandy Anelli, secretary of the planning board.
David Stolman, town planning consultant.
Kathy Zalantis, planning board attorney.
The first item on the agenda is the SPCA of Westchester, 590 North State Road, site plan amendment, continuing the public hearing. Now, can I hear?
Good evening, board. How are you tonight? Wayne Spector, once again, attorney for the applicant, the SPCA of Westchester. And hopefully we're here tonight to just move the project forward. Since the last meeting, I understand I was provided with a copy of a letter, a report from the EAC. I have our engineer, Dan O'Connor, with us tonight as well. Collins, I'm sorry. Collins, sorry. Collins. Get that wrong all the time. Just to answer any questions, we feel that the submissions and the work that we've done in conjunction with this board has addressed most of the issues, I think all of the issues stated in the EAC's letter, but we could certainly answer any questions if you wish to. I spoke with my client as well, the executive director actually, about some of the issues. They did apply for a grant from the DEC to remove and hopefully eradicate a lot of the invasive vines in the property. Thank you, Donna Sharrett, for making those suggestions. And I don't know if she's here tonight, but we did apply. They did apply for it, and they're also offering to host working sessions for volunteers and staff on managing invasive species on the property. There's a session scheduled for April 13th, and participants are encouraged to show up with gloves and shovels and clippers. If anybody would like to show up, you're welcome to. To have a vine cutting party, I guess you call it. And also, the garbage that's referred to sitting at the back of the property, a large embankment, was dumped there sometime in the 70s. At least so the story goes. They're going to hire a company to dig most of it out, including a very large oil drum or some other, well, we don't know if there's no oil in it, but other large scrap metal. So the intention is to clean up and take care of that during the construction period. I mean, other than that, on the more technical issues relating to the wetlands, I think if necessary, if you want us to respond to any of that, to those questions or comments, like I said, Mr. Collins is here. We feel that it has been covered very well on our submissions and the SWIP plan that was and the other methods of protecting the wetlands that were included in the plans and reviewed by the town engineer and reviewed by the planner as well. So with that, I'm willing to take any questions or comments.
Board have any questions, comments at this time? Staff? Yeah. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none. Sandy, just want to make sure, the letter from the AAC and also Donna's email are both posted up on the website? They're available?
They're not on the website, but they're in this record.
They're in the record, okay. Okay. All right, in which case, I believe we have a couple of memos from...
Unless they want to read this first.
Would you like to go through the resolutions?
Yeah.
Sure. So the first resolution that we have, is the resolution of site plan and steep slope permit approval. I think you should all have that. Sandy made copies for everybody.
Yes.
You all have that? Okay. And each resolution has a front end, and the front end is the same up to about the middle of page 2, so we don't have to go through that 4 times with the 4 resolutions. So the first whereas identifies the applicant and owner of the property and the various approvals that are being sought to replace the existing 6 buildings and structures on the property with a new consolidated 2-story building, gives this floor area of the building and the fact that the parking area would have 67 spaces and associated improvements, and that's known as the project or proposed action. The next whereas gives the location of the property, its size, and its zoning district designation. And then from there until the middle of page 2, we list the application materials, the plans and other application materials. And then all 4 resolutions say the planning board is familiar with the subject property in the general vicinity of the subject property. And this resolution then specifies sections of the zoning law which the planning board has used to review this application. And then the last paragraph on page 2 is the same in all 4 resolutions. The planning board has received comments and recommendations from the board's engineering consultant, the town planning consultant, the town environmental advisory committee, the public, and others, and has given due consideration to said comments. And this resolution basically says this matter was referred to the county planning board, and that the next paragraph, the county planning board responded in a letter with comments, and the planning board has given due consideration to the comments. And then the fact that, and the next paragraph is the same in all 4 letters, or resolutions rather. Public hearing opened on January 16 and presumably will be closed tonight. And then the next paragraph is in all 4 resolutions. It basically says that the planning board issued a negative declaration with respect to the proposed action. In this case, the next paragraph says that the ZBA has issued 2 area variances with respect to proposed signage for the project. And then we have now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby adopts and incorporates the recitations and statements set forth above as if fully resolved and set forth herein. Then we have in this resolution 4 determinations that the planning board has to make in accordance with section 200-50A of the zoning law in order to approve the project. And you've seen these paragraphs many times before. Moving to the top of page 4, this resolution also grants steep slope permit approval, so there are 5 determinations that the planning board must make in accordance with chapter 167, steep slope protection, in order to grant a steep slopes permit. And then be it further resolved, and we should probably read through these, or at least part of these. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby grants site plan and steep slope permit approvals to the project as expressed on the above specified drawings and other application materials subject to compliance with the following conditions and modifications and any other requirements which must be met by law. 1, prior to the endorsement of the site plan by the planning board chairman, the following conditions shall be fulfilled. And then A is our standard condition, basically saying they've got to fulfill the items in Dan's memo dated January 16, 2019, and any subsequent memos which may be issued by the engineering consultant. B is relatively standard, that all governmental approvals and permits which may be required for the project, including from but not necessarily limited to the Village of Austin, the Westchester County Department of Health, and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation shall be obtained, and evidence of such shall be submitted to the town building and planning department. And then the next paragraph has to do with signing the drawings and filing the drawings. And then item 2, the following conditions shall be fulfilled prior to the issuance of the CO for the project. The applicant shall enter into a stormwater facilities maintenance agreement with the town of Austin, which has become pretty standard. And then item B is standard. The planning board reserves the right to go out and take a look at the project before the CO is issued and to make any additional reasonable requirements. Item 3, the following are general conditions which shall be fulfilled as the project progresses to completion. These are all standard items. A, B, C, D are the expiration provisions, entirely standard in all resolutions of site plan approval, as are E, F, and G, best management practices, clean soil, and compliance with the New York State Energy Code and the American with Disabilities Act. Okay, so that's the first resolution.
Do you have a motion to,
So you want to
We have
close?
to close the public
Oh,
hearing first.
sorry. No members of the public, so could I motion to close the public hearing, please?
So move.
Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, any objections? Okay. The public hearing is closed. Could I have a motion to adopt this resolution, please? First one.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution of site plan and steep slope permit approval.
Any second?
Second.
Any objections? So approved. David? you
Okay.
this one?
Next resolution is a resolution of wetlands permit approval. And in this resolution, going from the beginning to the middle of page 2, all the items are exactly the same as the last resolution. And then we pick up with, actually, all the way down to, actually, all of page 2 is the same as in the last resolution as well. We pick up on the top of page 3. There are 5 determinations that the planning board must make in accordance with section 105(8)B of the Freshwater Wetlands, Watercourses, and Water Body Protection chapter in order to approve a wetlands permit. So those are basically right out of the code. And then be it further resolved that the project is shown on the above specifies wetlands permit drawings is hereby granted wetlands permit approval subject to the following conditions and modifications and any other requirements which must be met by law. A, the building inspector shall not issue a building permit for the project prior to the following conditions being fulfilled. 1, the applicant shall comply with the following items subject to the review and approval of the planning board. A, the applicant shall enter into a landscape maintenance agreement with the town of Austin that includes but is not limited to the wetland mitigation plantings. B, the applicant shall submit a 5-year wetland and wetland buffer monitoring and maintenance plan. C, the wetland mitigation plan specified above shall be revised to include a note which states that irrigation shall be provided on a weekly basis for a 5-year period and ongoing for the duration of the proposed use of the site as per the 5-year wetland and wetland buffer monitoring and maintenance plan and the landscape maintenance agreement. D, a note shall be added to the wetlands mitigation plan which states that the applicant shall install at the time of planting permanent deer fencing around the wetland mitigation planting. The deer fencing shall be installed so as to allow the passage of amphibians and reptiles. E, a detail of the deer fencing which meets the satisfaction of the planning board shall be shown on the wetland mitigation plan. F, the wetland mitigation plan shall contain a note which states that the applicant shall remove all invasive plants and garbage/trash from the on-site wetlands and wetland buffer areas. This shall include but not be limited to the sloped area between the proposed building and Route 100. G, the wetland mitigation plan shall bear the note located, that should be on sheet C3, which states that, quote, all animal waste shall be promptly picked up by the SPCA and employees/volunteers and be disposed of in trash receptacles located throughout the property, end quote. And then item 2 is standard. It's a performance guarantee being posted by the applicant to make sure that the applicant does all of the wetland mitigation that has been proposed and would be approved. And 3 is a maintenance guarantee equal to 25% of the amount of the performance guarantee to make sure that the proper maintenance over 5 years takes place. And then item B, the following condition shall be fulfilled prior to the issuance of a CO for the project by the building inspector. This is the same paragraph that we went over earlier regarding the planning board getting a chance to go out to the site, take a look. And then we have stock conditions to the bottom. And the last condition says, in accordance with the wetland and wetland buffer monitoring and maintenance plan for 5 years from the installation of the wetland mitigation measures, the applicant shall monitor. So this talks about monitoring to the satisfaction of the building inspector and the fact that the building inspector may contract with an expert in the area of wetlands at the expense of the applicant to assess the applicant's work and monitoring reports. And that's that one.
Any questions from the board?
Just a quick comment. So I wanted to thank the Environmental Advisory Council for looking as carefully as they did at this plan. It is an accident of history that this facility is located on a wetland, and that is unfortunate. But I do want to state that I have confidence in the stormwater protection plan and the engineering care that has been taken in designing this facility. I have personal knowledge that this organization maintains its facilities with meticulous care with respect to cleanliness of its grounds and facilities. And it's because of that that I feel comfortable going forward, and that I feel that there is no environmental risk associated with going forward with this, despite being in a wetland. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
David, do you have any comments on the EAC section on wetlands disturbance?
Sure. Again, I think it's a great idea that the EAC puts some advice into the planning board, just as Gareth had said. But the recommendations that the EAC made are based upon the map that they had at the end of their memo or letter, which is taken from the county GIS, which is a fairly gross indication of where wetlands may be located. And the benefit of using the county GIS for that purpose is to key the planning board into the idea, or into the fact that there's likely a wetland on the property and there needs to be further exploration, which was done in this case. The applicant hired Everett Environmental Consulting, which is a well-known and well-thought-of consulting firm who actually went out there, boots on the ground, and flagged the wetlands, which are not as extensive as that shown on the county mapping. So, as I said, I think some of the recommendations of the EAC were based upon the county GIS mapping, which is more gross than the actual specific mapping that was done by the consulting firm hired by the applicant.
Any other comments from the board?
And just on the EAC's memo, just as another part of the previous iteration of the plans, I recommended the applicant set up the outdoor dog areas to be connected to the sanitary sewer, so that so it's designed in such a way that the first flush of runoff will be directed to the sanitary sewer. Any extreme storm events will still flush out to some extent whatever is on the ground if there is completely clean, and then ultimately if it's a big storm it'll bypass. But the intent is to allow them to pick up the waste, but they'll also be able to hose down the area under normal conditions, and any normal storm will be washed into the sanitary system and not into the wetlands. So the applicant has it. That is included in the design of the project.
Thanks, Dave.
Plus, the applicant does not intend to leave more, any waste on, they're instructed to pick up any waste that is there. So hopefully there won't be much at all.
But we were trying to address the summer thunderstorm event, that they'd be ill prepared.
Right.
But well taken. I mean, we just wanted to have that insurance, as we knew it was a major concern.
But they're aware of the need to keep it as clean as possible. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
Make that motion.
Okay, any seconds?
Second.
Any objections? Okay. Thank you. David, the third.
Okay, the third resolution is the tree removal permit approval. And except for the title, the first two pages are exactly the same as the last two resolutions. And then we have now therefore, I'm on page, now therefore be it resolved, and the planning board here is making 8 determinations that it must make in accordance with section 183 of the tree protection, 183-2 of the tree protection chapter in order to grant a tree removal permit. And then toward the bottom of page 3, we have, be it further resolved that the project as shown on the above mentioned drawings is hereby granted tree removal permit approval, subject to the following conditions and modifications and not any of the requirements which must be met by law. The following conditions shall be fulfilled prior to any tree removal taking place on the site. The next item is pretty standard. The trees to be removed shall be, versus preserved, shall be marked to the satisfaction of the building inspector, and the applicant shall satisfy the building inspector with regard to the protection of trees which are to be preserved. 2, relative to section 183.12G of the tree protection chapter of the town code, sheet SA1 contains a table which lists the trees proposed for removal. The table shows that the total aggregate diameter of the trees proposed to be removed It's 495 inches. Based upon the 495 inches, the required tree replacement is 247 inches. The table also shows that the applicant proposes to plant 183 caliper inches of trees. The applicant shall pay the equivalent amount of money relative to the deficit of 64.5 caliper inches into the town tree bank fund. And then item B, the next paragraph is the same as in the last two resolutions. And then we have three more conditions which are basically stock conditions, which are all tree removal resolutions.
Has there been any movement in the town board for the town tree bank plan?
Not to my knowledge.
You adopted my question.
Not that
I was going
yeah.
to ask the same question.
But of course, the applicant will.
Pay whatever the amount is, I suppose.
Very good.
Yes.
Any comments or questions from the board? Any further comments from Ms. Law? Could I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution of tree permit removal for the SPCA Animal Rescue Facility.
Second.
Any objections? No. So, the last resolution?
The last resolution is the resolution of Architectural Review Board approval. Again, the first two pages are the same except for the title at the top of the pages as in the previous resolutions. So if we turn to the top of page 3, there are 4 determinations that the planning board must make in accordance with section 55-8A of the ARB chapter of the code in order to approve an architectural review board approval. And then we have the further resolved. We have a list of conditions here. So first is item A, prior to the endorsement of the site plan by the planning board chairman, the following conditions shall be fulfilled to the satisfaction of the town planning consultant. 1, in accordance with section 218D2 of the zoning law, the proposed 6-foot-high privacy fence along the northerly property line shall be extended farther toward the rear property line, and the location and size of the white pines at the top of the berm in this location shall be shown on the drawings. So it doesn't say exactly how far to extend that privacy fence, but it's for the length of the improvements. 2, the 3 different lighting plans listed above shall be reconciled. 3, the lighting plan shall bear the following notes, and these are the notes that we include in all resolutions if it hasn't already been done by the applicant. And 4, the lighting plan shall show the intensity numbers on the illumination contours. And then the last 2 conditions here are stock conditions that you find in all resolutions of the ARB approval.
Hey, could you, David, could you give a little bit more clarification on the 3 different lighting plans listed?
Yeah, if you turn to, just flip to the first page of the first resolution, which is probably the easiest thing to do, or any resolution. If you go to the second page, SL, this is items 5 and 6 on the, items 5 and 6 toward the top, SL 101 and SL 102. One's a lighting plan prepared by HCP Architects and BBL Construction Service. We have lighting information at SL 102, and then most recently, if you go down to item 3 below that, there's 2 below that, there's a site lighting layout prepared by V Visual entitled Westchester SPCA Site Lighting Layout, and so they need to be reconciled. They're different. The fixtures are different on the plans. They need to be reconciled to one unified lighting plan.
Okay, I would assume the most recent probably is most likely the most accurate. But I remember there were some issues about some of the lines weren't visible well enough. The copy, maybe it was the copying. So
It's
we'll
not
have to- we'll take a look at it.
certainly not a big issue. You have too much lighting information.
We'll make sure we'll shed as much light on it as possible.
All right, just for that, I'm not sure they're going to approve that last resolution.
Okay, can I, any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, can I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
I'll move that we adopt the resolution of the Architectural Review Board for approval for the SPCA Animal Rescue Facility.
Great, any second? Okay, any objections? Okay, thank you, that's been done.
Okay, on behalf of my client, the SPCA of Westchester, I want to thank the board for its consideration and working together collaboratively to come up with a plan that I think is going to be very beneficial to the community, and I appreciate it, and they appreciate it. So thank you.
Congratulations, have a good night.
Next item on the agenda is Mark Petrucci, 51A Croton Dam Road, new single-family home, architectural review, continuing the public hearing. Down here.
Hi, good evening.
Have the applicant had a chance to take a look at the draft resolution?
No. Good. Just the, just something about the trees, the architect that said.
Sandy, did you send a resolution to Mark?
I thought we did,
Okay.
but
There's a resolution of approval that was to be forwarded to you.
Okay, well, since the applicant hasn't had a chance to look at it yet, Dave, you would just go through the resolution?
Sure, sure. So this is based upon my understanding, without having been at the last planning board meeting, but having read the minutes and having spoken to a few people. So this is entitled Kikuchi Residence Resolution of Architectural Review Board Approval. So in the first whereas, we give the name of the applicant and that this is ARB approval for a proposed residence. Next whereas, we give
And you
the,
correct that typo on the first whereas. This is in paragraph. Approval. Spelled wrong.
Yes. Doesn't make
oh,
sense.
yeah, thank you. Next whereas gives the location, tax map number, size of the property, and the fact that it's in an R15 one-family residence. And then we have the application materials which come next. And then the fact that the planning board is familiar with the subject property and the general vicinity of the subject property. And then the fact that the planning board has reviewed the application in accordance with Chapter 55 Architectural Review Board of the Code of the Town of Austin. The fact that a public hearing was opened on March 6th and may be closed tonight on March 20th, 2019. The next, that the planning board has received comments from Dan, from me, the public, has given due consideration to the comments. The next, that this is a type 2 action which does not need any further review subject to the seeker regulations. Now therefore be it resolved that the ARB is making these determinations which it must make in order to give ARB approval of a project. And then we have the conditions. Prior to the endorsement of the site plan by the planning board chairman, the following conditions shall be fulfilled to the satisfaction of the town planning consultant. The elevation drawing shall indicate whether the new horizontal siding is proposed to consist of wood or vinyl, etc. Did we go over that? Did you go over that at the last meeting?
Which one?
A1?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah, I think it was with
Right, yeah, it was fine.
Okay. So this should say, shall indicate that the new,
the horizontal siding is vinyl.
Vinyl, did you say?
Yep.
Yes.
okay, so I'll modify this to say that it will be vinyl. Okay. Number 2, the site plan shall identify all trees regulated by Chapter 183 Tree Protection of the Town Code, and for any such trees that are proposed to be removed, the information required by Chapter 183 shall be submitted by the applicant. The planning board reserves the right to require additional vegetative screening when the existing regulated trees have been shown on the site plan. 3, the following note on the site plan shall be deleted. All trees are to be removed as necessary. 4, and there's a typo in this as well. Sheet SY 101 shows a 6-foot, 6. So one of those feet comes out. Tall white cedar fence and proposed vegetative screening between the homes on lots 1 and 2, consisting of fountain grass, azalea, and mountain laurel. The planning board shall determine whether more substantial screening, such as a number of deciduous trees, evergreen trees, and shrubs is warranted, and if so, the plan shall be modified accordingly. And 5, the series of photographs mentioned above shall be revised so as to specify the name of the project and a date. And then the last 2 conditions are just stock conditions of all resolutions of architectural review board approval.
I think we should determine the screening, because I think we just discussed that already. And then we can maybe strike out that language
In 4.
in 4.
Yeah, that's fine. So it comes down to whether the 6-foot-high vinyl fence and the shrubs is sufficient, or whether there ought to be a tree or 2, or
It's just a cedar fence.
oh, I'm sorry.
And I believe that the town ordinance is 6.5 foot, right?
I think it's 6.
I think it's 6.
6, is it 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
You may have,
and that's between the property of the neighbor that's to the
No,
west.
no, this is
No.
between
No,
the
this-
two.
we're talking
No,
about
this
the-
is, this is.
Along the fence.
This is only dealing with a subdivision.
It's
Oh,
only,
yeah,
yeah.
between the 2
right.
homes
Right.
on the property.
It's on the property.
Now, I understood that the neighbor had sent in some additional photos to Sandy.
Yes, I have them.
The rear yard neighbor.
And this is the neighbor that's in lot 11.
Yeah, I believe
That's
it's a
the rear.
side.
The upper left-hand corner?
Yeah, it's the rear, yeah, rear yard.
We did get a letter tonight. Someone delivered a letter. Joseph Salvati,
Okay,
who also lives in Country Meadows.
okay.
I think he's in the audience.
Is he in the audience?
Yeah.
Great. Would you want to make any comments at this? We'll open it up for public comments at this time.
Well, I just restated what I said last time. For everybody's benefit, we just wanted to maintain the privacy back there, that moving the house 50 feet, I think was a great thing. But understand what was there before was just a garage barn, now there's a house. And what we're concerned about is the screening that'll take place between that house and then the Country Meadows line that's there, how that would be replaced. And that's basically what I put in the letter.
So that letter is not part of the record, Sandy?
No, we received it tonight, but I'll put it in the record
Okay,
tonight.
have folks had a chance to take a look at it?
I can
you-
give copies
I have not.
Okay, just pass it around.
tomorrow. or-
Yeah, just pass it around. Do you have anything more to add to besides your letter?
No.
Okay. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak at this matter?
Are there any other members that wish to speak? Who wish to speak? Yes. Yes. Do you want me to go up? What? She wants to speak.
Yeah,
I'm living in the lot 11.
Right, okay. Mrs. Inouye, why don't you come up? And give your name for the record.
Okay, I'm Edwin Owe. I'm living in the lot 11. Tonight, you can see that there's no house in the lot 11. In the map, my house is missing. My house is missing in the map.
Right, we covered that last time. We know that
Yeah,
you're
so
off
I
a
just
little on
draw
the...
my, can I pass this?
Sure.
There's a
Give
code.
Give it
to
to
the
Sandy.
secretary.
Oh, okay. She just drew her house in to this plan.
Okay.
Right, okay.
I think that's where we
Yes.
pretty much established
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
last.
We also had a satellite view of
Right.
that area from last meeting.
Yeah, so the My pool, can I point out?
Yes, go ahead.
You cannot replace this map?
Oh, just give her a mouse for a cursor so that she can
Oh,
point where it
sure.
is.
You want
You
map?
can't replace the
You want
map?
the mouse?
A map, can you replace?
Not right
No.
away, because she doesn't have a soft copy.
Oh, okay,
Oh.
okay.
Oh, you mean to put this up instead?
Yeah,
Oh,
so you can't. right?
no, I-
Ah.
It would have to be scanned.
Right.
We haven't gotten that far yet.
So then.
But we get the general gist of it, that it's
We know.
in that location. It's okay. You can pass, yeah,
Yes,
you can give us that,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, put here, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Anyway, thank you very much for this opportunity again. And tonight, my friend and my neighbor are helping me again for my language problem. So you can see my pool is the left side, and then if you would like to see the picture I brought tonight, how it looks like from my pool to the other side. No, that's, my pool is more this side. This side. So there's no screen here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, also,
That's not the property.
and also my bedroom is here. So once the house is built here, I can do the all, from here to here, I can do the all view from my bedroom.
Okay.
So and then, so I just want to say, I hope that
Yeah.
any new housing project will consider the existing housing property
That part of the
value.
lawns. Some of the blue is the lawn.
Okay.
I said, I hope.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Oh,
that,
sorry.
yeah.
I hope that any new housing project would consider the existing house, property value.
Well, it's an element of the consideration.
Yeah, okay, thank you, I just wanted to say so, thank you.
Any other members from the public who wish to speak on this matter?
Yeah, please, please.
So, hi, my name is Barbara
Your last name
Colmer, C-O-L-M-E-R,
Address?
and your address.
2 White Birch Lane, Goldens Bridge, New York. And my friend Aiko asked me to come here just to be sure that her concerns are understood. So Aiko, do you want me to just go over the list we discussed? Just review it? Okay,
Is the list the same as what's being passed right now?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, then we're okay with it unless you have anything more to add.
Did we have some questions that we wanted to ask? They say they're okay
Mm-hmm.
with all this, unless we want to add something.
I think, but Mark, I think Mark wanted to know what we are talking, so especially our request.
Yes.
I think he should know. He wanted to know, at least the last part, our request.
So the request,
And also, can you just look at, can you give us just 5 minutes, please?
Sure.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
start where?
No, from the beginning.
Okay, so, their concerns are this. The loss, they stand to lose their nice, quiet environment in the backyard and the pool. When they purchased the house 17 years ago, it was an open view, and now there's going to be a house quite close to the property line. That's a big concern. Loss of the sunlight, and, well, I mentioned the view, and they're also concerned about the property value. And as Aiko said there are some other concerns. They're concerned that there will be drainage onto their property, that the lot next door did have a flood in their crawl space due to water running down from their, the other parking lot. And they're concerned that they will now have a flooding problem. They're concerned about noise and sound and lights shining into their house, as well as specific to ACO, she's very sensitive to chemicals, including fertilizer, and smells from the laundry rooms, such as fabric, and there she's concerned about those items. She's asked me to tell you that in terms of how the whole thing will look, a friend of hers is now preparing some pictures in 3D that will show how it looks after the house is built. And she hopes that the decision won't be made before those arrive. Is that correct? And here's the request, that the new house is to be further away from their property line than it currently is, and that there be the builder and or the new owner address screening between the two properties. It's our understanding that there's going to be screening between 1 and 2, but not between the new house and ACO's house. What else? And as ACO said, she hopes that, she thinks that her property value will diminish because of the loss of the open view, and she hopes she'll take that into consideration. And did we have any questions? Do you want me to ask them? Oh, okay. So it's my understanding in the last meeting, ACO asked if the house could be moved back. And I think she said that it can't be moved because of the envelope. And we don't know what that means. Did we, was there something that you can explain to us?
David, could you give us that edit?
Well, a building envelope is shown on the plan.
I'm sorry, what?
A building envelope, the location in
This one here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. The location in which the house could be located is shown on the plan. It's actually shown on ACO's plan as well. And I think what the neighbor is asking for is that the house be more centrally located on the lot, as opposed to as close to her property line as it's proposed to be built. I don't have any good reason as to why it couldn't be located farther away.
On the other hand, does the planning board have any authority to force the
This
move,
is just, this is,
the location of the
we're
building?
reviewing this as the Board of Architectural Review, we're not doing a site plan review.
Well, I think you have the latitude. It is a, well, we can get out the code and clear that up right now. Oh, I don't think I have that with me.
Well, perhaps the applicant could respond?
I know that, you know, we battled this back and forth, and that's where the, you know, with the architect, and that's where the house fit the best on the lot. We can't move it, we had to move it that way because we couldn't fit it with the, any further centrally because of the front and side yards.
Well,
And-
the building envelope is fairly large here, Mark.
Yeah, and it wouldn't fit any further back.
Yeah, I remember you said that at the last meeting. I wasn't sure
I
that
don't understand why.
I understood why. Yeah. Because it gets wider as you push it farther to the south.
Well, what happens is that it starts getting more obstructed by the existing building to the other side.
Right.
then they start facing directly at each other right away.
It would have no frontage if we put it directly behind the other house. You know, when you come up the driveway, at least it has some presence. If we tuck it behind the other house, it'll be, you know, directly, the front door would be directly flat up against the fence, and, you know, it would just diminish the presence of the house.
I'm not sure what that means.
It's this house. It would be right up against.
You wouldn't see, the, you know, when you come up the driveway, you really wouldn't see the house. It wouldn't have presence.
You wouldn't see the
Yeah,
house.
you have to understand that we're sort of balancing both neighbors.
I
Well, in this
understand.
case, you're balancing with the new neighbors who are coming in. And of course, the concerns that you listed, we understand it because we have our own houses as well, we understand what you're feeling. My own plot used to be facing nothing but woods, and then they plopped in a development there, and now I have a neighbor that I can wave to in the backyard. And that's basically going to happen no matter what we did here. Okay, so we understand your concerns. I think all the board members understand these points of preferring a quiet environment and sunlight and view and a property value. But we also are limited to what we can do in terms of our decision-making process here. As for the other items of water drainage issue, noise and sound, lights, and chemical use, well, those are going to be controlled by the town code as it is, plus of course the engineering and the building inspector.
Who is responsible for that?
I'm sorry?
Who is responsible for that?
Those items, well, they're just built in by law. By the town code. I mean, you can't have too much noise when you're doing certain things, you can't be working in certain hours. The water drainage, they already have, I assume you have a,
There is dry wells, there's a water retention already built into the plan.
okay,
On the opposing side, away from their house.
okay, and I assume your clients have no interest in aiming a light towards the neighbors, because obviously they can aim a light right back at their house.
Exactly.
So that's, you know, it's you know, most neighbors don't want to aim lights at each other. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, but, you know, I
That's in the
think,
code as well, that you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's in the code already, it's in the town code.
but I think it's still, to me, if I see the map, it's still too close to my property. While I have to, you know, the damage to my property is bigger than theirs. If I move the house, they might, you know, they have a damage too. But I already had a lot of damage after, you know, building the house.
I mean, your house is much closer to the existing neighbors as it is compared to the
But,
new house.
but backyard is a different, we need a privacy, right?
And then,
so
and
that-
there are zoning requirements in each zoning district, and this property complies with all the zoning requirements for your zoning district.
What-
It already fits what's required.
Property is doing what's legal in the zoning.
Country made is illegal?
Do you see
Yeah, it's
the
legal.
lines that
Illegal.
establish the
No,
building
it's
envelope?
legal.
Legal, it's legal.
Okay, legal.
Okay,
But, you know, the,
They-
all right.
but.
I think what we're trying to explain is that the town has certain zoning requirements. The placement of this house meets those zoning requirements. There's
Okay.
nothing that they have done wrong
Yeah,
in
okay,
where they
yeah,
have placed
right,
it,
right.
okay? That's one thing. The second thing is in terms of like water drainage, noise, and things like that, there are town ordinances already in place which control those matters. They, in building this house, have to comply with those. The town engineer will look at that issue. So that, and their plans already comply with those. So that,
Agree with, they're doing what they should.
so, all right, in terms of whatever fertilizers or laundry, products they use, you can't control what your neighbor next to you is using. So that's just not something
Yeah,
that we
I
can do
understand
anything
that, I
about.
understand that.
But, and so, you know, I mean, it's,
So, may I say something, if this is the last meeting, but you have, the law controls everything in this town. And as I said last time, 70 years ago, I bought this house because we had a pool and a nice, quiet backyard. But I didn't expect that someone make a road, extend a driveway to the backyard and build a house. I didn't expect that. But now, if you said, I understand this is illegal, but please consider our situation a little bit more. So can you, if you can, you know, if they can move a little bit downward, I really appreciate that.
Okay.
If you see that, if you know, my friend is making a 3D picture now, and after you see the picture, you might think, you might consider a little bit.
Well, I don't speak for resident board members, but I'm pretty sure that an additional 3D rendering won't change our understanding of the situation. One of the additional items in terms of screening from the pictures that have been submitted by you, it seems to me that there are already some screening already there.
No, you know, under my, that's not evergreen. So under my height, there's no leaves.
Right, until the season changes. We understand that.
Yeah.
Right.
No, in the summer, the, you know, the branch is over almost above my height. Not so much leaves are above my height. So you can see the pool from the other side, and they have a deck in the pool side. So we, you know, my neighbor can see my pool, I can see their deck directly.
We understand, again, it's within whatever the zoning requirements are. That's a different issue. In terms of the privacy issues that we're discussing.
Everything has to be completely screened, which is not necessarily the case.
All right,
But
you have any
can I
further
say-
comments
yeah,
other than
yes,
what we've already heard?
I think in the town of Ossining, the screening for, you know, when you build a new house, I think they have to, the new owner have to consider screening for the, you know, existing house.
Okay.
But that's, I think, requirement, at
All right.
least.
Do you have anything further to add other than what you've already said?
Further about what?
Do you have anything more besides what you've already told us?
Anything more?
Besides screening and moving back the house, what?
Yes, do you have anything more you ask or want to tell us?
No.
Just this, yeah.
Any other members of the public wish to speak on this matter?
You know, I just wanted to make sure that the issue about drainage, which I think you took care of with the dry well, because we're the next house down, and so much water comes down from there that we had city inspectors come out to inspect my house as the source of the water, but it's coming from the top of the hill. How much you could prevent, I don't know, but that's an issue that was raised to everybody that is adjacent to that property. And the other thing that I just wanted to point out, what was, I was trying to stress, is that I don't think it's just really an issue about what's exactly law and what's in the code and everything else. It's just an issue that we all live in a community where we don't have high wooden fences to keep privacy. And that even for the new resident and us, you know, years to come, we're going to all look back at this as the point in time where we've made a decision to keep everybody at least comfortable that we have our privacy and some control of the environment, that we don't change what we all moved into, including the new people. And I think that was the point she was trying to make.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Seeing none, any comments from the board? No. Any comments from the staff? Okay. So, we can close this as a public hearing. Okay, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Oh, yes.
So move.
What happens after this? That's what we wanted to ask.
David, would you like to explain what happens after this?
Well, the planning board is currently entertaining a resolution of approval. So, the public hearing has been closed, and if the planning board is satisfied, it can vote on the resolution, which would basically approve the project subject to the conditions that are specified in the resolution.
Do we have a copy of the resolution?
Well, he just went through it.
He just went through it.
It's brand new.
Okay.
I would just like to say that if this were a site plan review, which it is not, we're just acting as the architectural review board, I would want to see, more details about the drainage issue. But I don't think it's within our purview to be able to review those plans, but I think that, as the rest of the board has said, those issues are covered in regulations, and I'm sure the building department will make sure that they're followed. And the contractor has, am I right, correct me if I'm wrong, given assurances that
Right.
that the dry wells will adequately address any flow off of the
Yes.
property. You can bring that issue up with the planning board, with the building department, just so that they know that that's an issue that they should, pay special attention to. That's all I would say. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, is the public hearing closed at this point? Do we vote on that?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second. Okay, any objections?
Site
Okay.
plan, it's not a
So the public hearing is closed. Could I have a motion
Before-
to adopt this resolution as amended?
Did we amend it because?
Because there's typos on it, yeah.
Oh, okay, because I was also raising the last sentence in paragraph 4. I think it leaves, if you are satisfied with what's being proposed already with the cedar fence and the screening
Yes.
on the plan,
Yes,
then there would be no
That
need.
should come out then.
Then that should come out.
okay.
That's on page 3,
About the
right?
cedar fence,
Right.
if they're satisfied with this.
I'm sorry, did you let, I'm sorry, can I ask?
So I'll make a motion for us to approve the
Resolution
resolution
as amended.
Motion
as
to-
amended at
Motion
tonight's meeting.
to approve the resolution as
Second.
amended.
Any objections?
No.
Okay, I should have asked whether we wanted to make a discussion on this, but, okay. Assume we don't need it, so there's no objections, this resolution passes. As amended.
So the resolution passed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that ends the agenda for the public hearing matters. Minutes. We had time to read that?
They said they were doing everything
Okay.
in compliance with the town code. So they don't have anything to say.
I think that was the only change.
So the resolution passed. Just passed, just now.
No, they're part of the record.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, just one more question, may I ask just one more question?
Sure, go ahead.
So, the advisor said, about the screening, right? The screening is between the two houses, not between my property and the new house.
That's correct. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking to Kathy.
Yeah,
Yes, the screening, they were talking about the screening between the
the two houses, not.
lots 1 and 2,
Right.
not between
Oh, okay.
lot, where they're gonna build the home and your property.
But as I said, the screening it's between the new house and the existing house.
Because there was no screening there to begin with.
Oh, yeah?
So we thought that it needed additional screening between the two properties, the two.
But it's not requirement in town of Ossining? No?
It's subjective.
It's subjective. There was nothing there. There was absolutely nothing there, and they were closer than in even your house. They were even closer together than they are to your house. So it was much worse than yours condition. It was worse situation than yours,
The
so it
screening,
needed more screening. Yours is not that bad.
they needed screening between
Yeah,
the new and
it's
the
about,
old, because
I'm
there was
sorry, am I,
Um,
it is town of, this area is the town of Ossining or village of Ossining?
Town of
Town
Ossining.
Town
of
of
Ossining, right?
Do we have a motion to consider the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any objections, any changes? Blah, blah, blah. Great, okay, minutes are approved. Okay, any other business?
No, I just gave out those memos from River Knolls.
Okay.
You have to deliver copies.
Are they gonna be on
Perhaps.
Do you want to give some status on that?
Sure. The FEIS is still under consideration at this point. I think the applicant has been having some discussions with the town board about various matters.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the status of that is exactly.
He's the,
As Sandy said, Glenn wrote this two-page, I'm not sure it's a memo exactly, about the cost of the recreational facilities. I think that needs to be vetted, but that provides you with some input into your consideration of possibly lowering the recreation fee as a result of recreational facilities provided by the project, as you did in the case of Park Knolls. So we might want to put this on the next agenda to talk about the subject of the rec fee, because the applicant is looking for a reduction in that. What we told the applicant is that we want all of the mitigation measures, including the rec fee, included in the FEIS before the FEIS gets adopted by the planning board as complete, and then the planning board will circulate the FEIS. So we want to have all the components, all the mitigation measures, including the rec fee in the FEIS before it gets accepted by the planning board.
So this sheet that was given to us from Glenn, all it is just is a version, a comparison of the supposed square footage that is.
You know, we got it so recently, I just glanced at it, really haven't had a chance to review it, and I think it'd be kind of premature to start talking about it perhaps before we all have a chance to review it.
Okay. All right. So, motion to adjourn, anyone?
Before we adjourn, are we gonna be able to come up with some kind of list, if we're gonna be bringing up Park Knolls as a comparison? Do we have any kind of a list on that project on what justification we used to lower that? Because I'm pretty sure we rejected the notion of, you know, their installation of a pool and amenities for that project to be considered. I think it was more, you know, what features did they put on site that benefits the community as opposed to, you know, the things that were specific to the residents on the property.
That's not my recollection. My recollection is, and I could be entirely wrong, that they provided a cost of what it was, they provided information regarding what it was costing them to provide their own recreational facilities. I don't think they provided anything for the community.
I think there was like some conversation about the additional wetlands and planting and.
Why don't we check before we
Yes.
speculate too much?
Yeah.
But we have the
Go back
information.
and look at the actual.
We have the information.
But I definitely recall us kind of
Sandy can pull it up.
dismissing the pool idea. I mean, there's a public pool just as there's a private pool, and there's no access to the, from the, you know, the community can't use their private pool. It's not necessarily a benefit.
Why don't we check
Yeah, and
I'm willing to
also,
sit back and wait.
what we
yeah,
did?
and it's also the applicant's duty to convince us, so.
Right.
we've asked them for information, apparently they've given us this, but we obviously need something more than this, so.
One of the things I don't see on here, is my understanding is that the town had asked for a sidewalk.
Town board has, yes.
Has asked for a sidewalk to
Yes.
be provided, down towards the village. I forget the name of the street, but, I don't see that.
No, that's not considered a recreational facility.
Okay, that's a mitigation measure for the project itself, but they shouldn't get credit and claim that's
Oh, okay.
recreation
All right.
area.
Okay. So we'll wait for the applicant to be more thorough and give the chance for the staff to go and, consider what the submissions are.
Right, and Sandy will pull the information regarding Parth Knowles and get that out to you, right, Sandy?
And also, given the fact that the projects are not exactly the same,
Absolutely.
we don't have to, it doesn't make order.
But if it's gonna come up as a justification for the decision, I'd like to refresh our memories on.
Certainly.
Okay.
Any other topics we wish to discuss? Okay. Motion to adjourn, anyone?
So moved.
Second.
Any objections? You're outvoted. Okay. Thank you. Good night.